is recycling, but I wanted to start the education series. That's something that pushes the envelope more in Charlotte, and in our condo facilities and with individuals, and gain some interest there. So we see some other possibilities, because I think there's a lot of warranted attention on recycling, but this is, in my mind, returning to the earth, things that we can. So I just wanted to start to get some thoughts and start with you all, as an innovator in the community. So David and Charlie, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the group.
Sure thing. So I'm David Balder. Charlie Highland is with me here. We are two of the partners in a company called Crowntown Compost. So we are Charlotte's only residential food waste pickup business. We also pick up from restaurants. There's another business that does some of that as well. And we've been around for about 6 years. We've got around 750 customers, which sounds like a lot, but we want, at least 10,000. So a long way to go. And we're picking up around 100 tons a year. And again, that's going to grow as well. So yeah, Charlie, you want to say anything?
Oh, well, you pretty much covered most of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got kind of like an introduction presentation that we can go through if y'all want. It's 10-15 minutes, not too long, and kind of answer some questions. If you hear a baby crying, that's mine. So yeah, if you want, I can jump right in, or do y'all have any questions before I start?
I think it'll probably provoke more questions to have the info, and then people can think of their questions. It'll give us more context, because not everyone's been exposed to you, David.
Awesome, can do that. And you mentioned recycling, and that'll have a lot to do with what we do, just from a standpoint of knowing what you can and cannot compost. So can you guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So compost, title of this is It's Food for Our Soil, and I'll kind of explain why that is. We're going to briefly go over what you can compost, like I mentioned. We're going to go over why we think you should compost, and then just repeat kind of what I already said about our services. So a quick intro, I mentioned this, 2014, little breakdown of our customers. Of the 750 or so, over 425 homes and apartments would go to their house every week or every other week. So apartments are every week, because they don't have much space. And then homes are every other week with a larger bin. Then we've got 200 plus drop-off customers, like Kristen does. And some of those customers come on Saturday mornings to the South End Farmers Market. Oh,
Sorry, tornado warning in the area. We're good.
and then some go to Free Range Brewery, and then we have a spot near South End at Recover Brands. It's a t-shirt company where we kind of have a shelf of buckets, and customers can exchange them anytime. And it's popular, so sometimes the buckets are in short supply. We've got 40 plus commercial clients, mostly restaurants, coffee shops, breweries, some offices, ice cream shops. So we're looking to grow that. And I mentioned 100 tons per year that we're picking up currently. And real quick, the material that we collect, we do compost some of it on our own, a small amount, but we work with a couple of partners in the area for a few reasons. One is it's an expensive and complicated process to run. And hauling it is, logistically involved enough. So we're working towards having our own facility that will handle more of our material, but right now it's kind of a pilot. Some of the material goes to Earth Farms in Gaston County. It's a kind of typical compost facility. They have long, tall, and wide piles of compost that are actively processing. And I'll kind of talk a little bit more about what that is. And then we also take some material to an anaerobic digester in Charlotte, which is nice because it's a lot closer. And that is still decomposition, which is what composting is, but it's done with no oxygen. And I'll explain that a little bit. Whereas composting is decomposition with oxygen. So I know that's kind of in the weeds. Backing up some, like I said, we got to figure out what you can compost before you can start composting. So in order to know what you can compost, you also got to know what you can't compost. And we're going to break it down into kind of 3 silos. So there's your recycling, your compost, and then your trash, which is really just things that are not compostable or recyclable in your specific community. It might be different elsewhere, but for the sake, we'll call that trash. So first question is it recyclable? Yes or no? You think that's a simple answer. Maybe you guys are well versed in what is and what isn't, but just in case, quick review. And this is from Mecklenburg County. So it's different sometimes in apartment complexes and it's different in different counties, but more or less the same. The big categories are plastic, glass, metal, and paper. Plastic one's tricky, probably the trickiest category. Recently, in the last 3 years, in Mecklenburg County, they limited their plastic to plastic containers that have necks, which is like a bottle. So where the top is more narrow than the bottom, and the opposite, which they call wide mouth plastic, like your yogurt containers, are no longer accepted in Mecklenburg County. And then some things, and I'll go to the next slide with what you cannot recycle. Some things like cups, which they don't even have a picture of on here, I don't think. Well, they do have plastic cups, but even paper cups, and then obviously styrofoam cups, they still fall under that wide mouth category. And I don't think they do a very good job communicating that, but for better or worse, plastic cups are not recyclable. So that was quick. I won't stick too long on that. I want to take up y'all's time, but happy to, y'all have a copy of this, so feel free to use it. Next step to figuring out if you can compost it is, can you eat it? If the answer is yes, super easy, compost it. Of course, there's some things that you can't eat that you should still compost. So the second part of that question is it 100% made from plants? So some easy answers there. Is it a banana peel, an apple core, which you might still eat, that's fine, but in case you don't. And then is it a paper product? So paper products are compostable. There's some that are better for composting and some that are better for recycling. So to give an example, paper towels and napkins are better for composting, and they're actually not recyclable because if you ever tear a paper towel in half, you've noticed that kind of the fibers kind of stick out. Whereas if you tear a piece of paper, it's a little more fine of a tear. So those fibers are the reason that paper towels and napkins are not recyclable. Is that if you were to take it to a recycling center, shred it up, and try to take that pulp and make more paper, the fibers are too short to stick together and it would just fall apart. Whereas office paper, newspaper, cardboard, those items the fibers are still strong enough they can be recycled and made into more paper, or recycled and made into paper towels or other lower grade paper products before they're ultimately, hopefully, composted. And then other things that are compostable that are not like edible would be like eggshells, coffee grounds, which eggshells are not made from plants. And in this case, when we're talking about residential composting, we're going to avoid meat, bones, and dairy. And I should have put that on this slide here. It might show up in a second. The reason for that is if you're doing like backyard composting, you need to avoid that because of pests, flies and mice and rodents. In our case, where we're a service picking up your bucket of food waste, if you were to put meat, bones, or dairy in your bucket, and then let's say like forget to take it to us, or we forget to pick it up, or you forget to put it out for us to pick it up on your pickup day, the smell and just kind of health safety of that gets a little questionable. So we avoid it. And then the final category of compostables is plastic that is compostable. And it's plastic made from plants, but unfortunately, some genius scientists decided to make 2 categories of plastic made from plants. One is compostable, and it's called compostable plastic, and it has various certifications with it. And then one is just biodegradable, which doesn't really mean anything. It just means that it will break down as slowly as normal plastic made from petrochemicals, but rather than break down into inorganic matter like the molecules that form oil, it'll break down into organic molecules. So in 1,000 years, when it finally breaks down, it'll be better for the planet, but that kind of defeats the purpose, right? So, and then again, if you have backyard composting, you can't compost compostable plastic. It needs to go to an industrial facility where the temperatures are hot enough to break it down. So that's a lot, I know, but it'll stick eventually. So the answer to that is yes, compost it. If no, landfill. All right, quick recap of what you can and cannot compost. Some examples on the left, what you can. So we've got obvious fruit and vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, eggshells, leftovers like rice, pasta, grains, paper towels, paper napkins, paper plates are fine. Keep an eye out. There's starting to be more paper plates that are like labeled compostable. It's because like the like cheap ones you typically think of with paper plates are kind of lined with wax, or even the expensive ones. And you see a lot of compostable plates that are like brown and look more natural. That's like better because it's not bleached, but the color is not super important. It's more whether it's lined with a wax or not. And there are some compostable waxes, but it's still probably it's better to avoid those in general, which makes it tougher to break down. But it also means you got to watch out what you put on the paper product. And things you can't compost aside from meat, bones, and dairy are plastics, metals, glass, styrofoam, rubber. And we also put hair on there because it's kind of like bones. It will decompose, but not. We don't want that in the buckets, and we also don't want to put it in your home compost. We also put animal waste on there. It says urine and feces, but in a farm, you might compost cow manure, horse manure, pig scraps, or chicken bed. You can do chicken bed stuff at home, like, but other pets, dogs and cats is not sanitary and safe. So, all right, that's what you can compost. If you have any questions about that, I'll just ask to hold them till the end so I don't take up too much of y'all's time. I'm going to talk about now kind of why it's important to compost. And there's 3 main reasons, but behind all those reasons, the kind of impetus behind it is that there's a huge amount of food waste going to our landfills. And it's not just Mecklenburg County, it's the whole country and really the whole world. But to start kind of at our local level, Mecklenburg County, this is a breakdown of the waste that goes to landfills and recycling facilities in the county. It's all solid waste. It doesn't really give us any illustration of what gets recycled or what gets composted. It's just kind of a total composition. So you can see it's about 1/4 recyclables and 1/4 organics, which organics are what you can compost. So it's made from organic matter. And it's about 1 million tons a year in the county. That fluctuates, but that's been the average for like 10 years. And so you can think of it as like 200 to 250,000 tons of organic, potentially compostable matter going to the landfill each year. That's a huge number, right? And that's just one county. And even then, it's like hard to visualize. So we did a little bit of playing around with the numbers. So if you took 250,000 tons of food waste over the course of a year and started stacking it inside the tall Bank of America tower on the left, it would fill that up in 1 year. You know, we kind of took the floor area and the height, and that's about the volume of that building, give or take a few thousand tons, which is crazy every year, right? And so then if you took that tower and dumped it onto the Panthers field, which I'm sure they would love, it would be the width of the field. It would extend 20 miles out in front of you to Gastonia, or pick your favorite suburb, and it would be 2 feet deep. So as far as the eye can see, as tall as the tower. On a U.S. basis, national basis, that's about the country wastes about 40% of its food supply each year, and that's from farm to table. It's not just things that are purchased. A lot of food gets wasted before it ever makes it to the grocery store, or just they choose not to sell it because it looks bad or it rots in the truck or something like that. That breaks down to about 219 pounds per person. And if you'd have a family of 4, they say it's about $1,600 per year of wasted food that we buy. That's by the time we purchased it, we waste that much of it. And then globally, it's a little bit less. Rather than 40%, it's closer to 30%, about 1/3 that gets wasted. And then on a national level, that 40% is 80 billion pounds, which we had the Bank of America Tower here. That's like 1,000 Empire State Buildings a year. So We're a small piece of that, but it's a huge problem nationally. So that was kind of the background, right? It's a lot. So why does it matter if we throw food waste in the landfill? First reason is that, as I mentioned earlier, I kind of said the word anaerobic digestion, which is no oxygen. So in a landfill, you don't have, well, in a landfill, you have that going on. So you have food waste breaking down with no oxygen, which is anaerobic decomposition. And the reason that's a problem in a landfill is that when there's anaerobic decomposition of organic matter, which is what food waste is, it's releasing methane. And methane is a greenhouse gas 28 times, roughly 28 times, it's 20 to 30 times more powerful than carbon dioxide, which is what we hear of most often in terms of greenhouse gases and auto emissions and factory emissions. But methane is a lot more potent, and a little bit more methane is a lot more powerful when it comes to impacting climate change. The good news is that large landfills like Mecklenburg counties have to capture that methane and either burn it off to produce power or just burn it off so that methane's not released directly to the atmosphere. But that's added cost. It's a safety risk. Methane's explosive. That's why you can burn it. And sometimes the capture technology doesn't work, so it leaks out anyways. Second reason why food waste in a landfill is a problem is that landfills are not endless pits, right? They're not even pits. They're mountains by the time they fill up. If you've been to the Speedway in Charlotte or in Concord, you know it's not a landfill underground. It's pretty far above ground. So the reason that's a problem is landfills fill up. Ours, they think, might be 5 to 10 years left before it fills up, depending on how much Charlotteans slow down their food waste or their waste in general, which doesn't seem very good, especially during COVID. So this map here is an illustration of projected development in the area by 2030. All the pink is expected to be developed area, commercial housing, basically not farmland or forest, AKA land that's not available for landfills. And this doesn't even show South Carolina, right? So you can bet that the next landfill is going to be a lot farther away from Charlotte Motor Speedway, and far away from where the waste is produced. So it's more transportation, which is more diesel or maybe natural gas being burned in trucks, more damage to roadways, and kind of problems associated with that. Money too, right? The third reason it's a problem is that food waste is a really great source of nutrients. The reason we eat food is we need nutrients, and the food waste we don't eat has those same nutrients in it. And plants need the same things we do to grow so that we can eat the food they produce. And the food they eat, like I mentioned, the title is soil or compost. So compost creates healthy soil. The way it does that is kind of the building blocks of compost. The reason food waste breaks down is that there's microbial activity, bacteria and fungi that basically eat the food waste and convert the nutrients into forms that are available for plants to consume. So that's why it's important, nutrients. Compost also has a lot of aggregate matter, so it keeps oxygen in. It lets oxygen come in, and plants. It's good for the soil too. And then it also retains a lot of water. So the aggregate matter creates gaps where water can kind of stay in the soil for the plants to use. The microbial activity that's also good as it continues over time. It helps resist the bad kind of fungi and bacteria that would attack plants and other pests like bugs and disease. So healthy plants. That's kind of the why we think composting is important. So here's kind of how to compost, right? And I'm really gonna talk about our service here. We have another presentation we can do that talks about how to compost at home, and I can answer some questions about that. But for now, so some misconceptions about composting. This goes for both our service and composting at home. One is maybe you just think I eat everything. I don't waste any food. Why would I do that? And we find that you might be better at not wasting food than the average person, but once you start kind of composting those things that you can't eat, like eggshells, coffee grounds, there's always something, and when you collect it, you start to notice how much it is. And our customers kind of average probably 7 to 10 pounds a week, But add that up over the course of a year, it's quite a bit. And then on the right, I don't want rats or I don't want pests. So there's ways to get around that at home if you're going to compost there. But with our service, we collect it weekly or every other week, and we maintain a clean bucket, and we also can give you advice on how to keep it clean, keep the smell down. Bottom left, I don't know how to compost. So at home, it's all about just kind of patience and troubleshooting. With our service, we compost for you. And then bottom right, it'll break down in the landfill. We kind of talked about that. It will over a long time. It'll also have problems associated with it, like methane. And a quick note on the anaerobic digestion that I mentioned that we do use for some of our food waste. So that facility, it's common around the world. It's pretty new to Charlotte. It's only been open for about 2 years. Basically, it's a process of taking food waste, breaking it down intentionally, digesting, decomposing it intentionally with no oxygen, and then all that methane is captured and it's all closed system. And the methane is burned in a generator to produce electricity. It's the same type of generator that natural gas power plants use, which natural gas is about 50% better than coal plants in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and the air cleanliness. So we prefer composting as a first resort, but anaerobic digestion is a lot better than going to a landfill. There's also some similarities with digestion. There's a byproduct at the end that's got a lot of the nutrients that compost has. It's a little bit different structure. We don't use that in our business yet, but we give our customers back normal compost for their gardens and soil. But it's something that we're exploring for the future. So a couple resources to share. One is savethefood.com. That is where a lot of the statistics about how much gets wasted came from. It also has a really nice library of different types of food and how to store them. So for example, tomatoes, right? You can go in there, search tomatoes, and it'll tell you when they're fresh, where do you keep them? In the fridge or on the counter? When they're kind of getting close to going bad, get soft, then what do you do? So tomatoes, for example, they would say put them on the counter when they're fresh, but then when they start getting close, if you're not going to use them, put them in the fridge. They also explain labels, like the dates on food, in case you have questions about that, which I still do. A couple documentaries that are useful. One is called Just Eat It, and it's about a couple in Canada that decided only to eat food that was going to be thrown away otherwise for 6 months. And they just find like tons of food, and it's all super edible, and it's depressing how much food they find. And then Kiss the Ground is another one. It's kind of talks more about soil and the benefits of compost for soil and the problems our nation and world face with soil depletion. So that's interesting as well. And I think I'll get to questions in a second. Just real quick on our service. So our normal service is residential pickup is $30 a month. Again, we have buckets for apartments, and we have new large bins, 24-gallon bins for houses. We've got the drop-off service. That's current pricing is $20 a month. We do restaurants and coffee shops. We have a larger bin for them, 64 gallons. That's $20 per pickup for one bin, and it kind of goes from there. And we also do events, not so much right now, but weddings, wine festivals, you name it. We're happy to support that. These are some of our commercial clients. We just got Haberdish is opening Supperland. We're going to start composting there over in Plaza Midwood. Some of the hotels are not doing anything right now, but we hope they return after some of the COVID shutdowns go away over time. And here's our contact info. So I'll leave this up and I'll take some questions if you guys would like to ask anything.
David, I didn't hear a lot about, Kristen, I didn't hear a lot about customers, and, I've been kind of interested in seeing what the folks here at like a Fifth and Poplar would do. I mean, obviously you get individuals like me, and you might get more as they know about you. And I can use that service in that way. But what about a group, a condo complex? How would we handle that? What's your experience?
Yeah, and that's something we planned on kind of just having a conversation about today. I just wanted to give you all some background. So thank you for asking that. Charlie, do you want to talk about that? Kind of some of the thoughts you've had? Do you want me to take it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think Kristen, you and I mentioned this as kind of maybe the spark for even this call initially. Apartments are probably, in the top 2 or 3 biggest focuses for us right now as a business because of the volume of people concentrated into one location. I mean, we cover from Davidson to Ballantyne right now. And so, a lot of going house to house, a lot of driving and stuff where you have a few hundred people located into one building. And so we are just in the beginning stages with an apartment complex in Noda right now to test that out. We've worked through some logistics on, the tenants setting their bucket outside their door, us coming through the hallways, picking those up, just the general overall process.
Mm-hmm.
And then the overall cost, of, what we would offer, for, we would have to have a minimum, just like our residential, we offer a perk program for bulk signups in neighborhoods and things like that. It would be the same for apartments. We'd have to have a minimum number of people sign up in the complex to be able to do that. But yeah, that's absolutely something that we're rolling out. And with COVID, trying to, get a contact at a complex for an HOA or somebody to advertise it and to push it out as an option to the tenants has been, a little bit of a longer process than maybe we'd like. We have a video that we shot. It's a short little 30-second video, just kind of highlights, someone in their apartment, like you, Kristen, cutting vegetables or paper towel rolls, throwing them in your bucket, setting it outside your door. We come through, pick it up, leave you a bucket. It's easy as it can be. So yeah, that's the bulk nature of composting, whether it be density in neighborhoods, getting entire communities and neighborhoods involved, and then apartments is a huge, focus point for us this year.
It's a huge opportunity. I mean,
Yeah, it really is.
and I was thinking you'd have to have a big bucket in the garage, in which case people don't love that. But this is actually more the model you have, at least that you're piloting, makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, we've thought about different things. And I mean, it will certainly, it's kind of why we're starting with just one to kind of learn a little bit. I mean, we could put a big bin down by the dumpster area, but then, the tenants taking it downstairs, dumping it. You'd have to have a lock on it. So you're going to have to unlock the code, because as we experience with a lot of our restaurants with bins being out in public areas, people just largely don't care and they dump stuff into it and then it's contaminated and things like that. There's been a number of different options. And then also, we're one of our clients, Uptown. I mean, I'm actually excited to hopefully start working with that complex because she had mentioned just last year, but, largely because of COVID and people being at home, their complex had to renew their trash contract because they were, producing so much trash at the complex. So, that's an added cost for the facility. And obviously they're not going to take that on. So they're going to pass that on to the tenant. And so it'd be interesting, if we can get in there to see how much, we could actually save on their trash at the facility.
Good point. Sharon, Walter, anyone from our team here, just as specific to Fifth and Poplar? What are your thoughts on this at all?
Walter here. I think it's a terrific idea, and I think this overview was really, really helpful. And to me, there's such a strong link to you eat better if the food you eat is compostable. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I see such a natural tie-in with not only improving your diet by eating fruits and vegetables, but also the ancillary benefit of being able to recycle or compost the whatever you do waste. So yeah, I think it's a win-win-win. Might want to add Michael Pollan, some of his books to the resources to look at it from the ingestion side, the benefits of eating fruits and vegetables. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, as I've been a part of the company and you just kind of think about what speaks to people, what kind of pulls your heartstrings to get you to spend money, invest your money into something. And like David shared, the methane gas facts, and those are very real, and the water retention benefits of the soil, and that's real. But I think for me, I've got 4 kids, and if you watch the Kiss the Ground documentary, one of the big thing in there is scientists say that basically our planet has about 60 harvests left of usable soil.
Wow.
And we don't experience it so much in America right now, but there's wars that happen in other countries because their crops are their economy. And when the soil dries up, the culture, the civilization, the community has to move. And so then they're encroaching on other lands and things like that. And I think in America, at least from my perspective, is we go to the store, we go to the farmer's market, we get our lettuce, we get our tomatoes, whatever. And you kind of have this, non-conscious thought, but I'll be back next week to get more, and maybe I never have to experience that possibly, but my kids will. And so, the Rodale Institute in Pennsylvania, they have this saying, healthy soil, healthy food, healthy people. And I think that we've all seen with COVID and the risk, the health risk, and what, makes you more high risk and is your health. And if we're eating healthy food, if it's made by a plant, eat it. If it's made in a plant, skip it, and it's kind of like a gym membership, for $1 a day or less than that, you can kind of do your part to play into your continued health and the health of others too, for sure.
Susan, Brian, any other questions about this or thoughts about it in general? Susan, we can't hear you. You do. You're muted still.
Sounds pretty attractive to me. I have this little plastic container under my sink, but are tea bags compostable, or do you just empty them? Or because I don't drink coffee, but I drink a lot of tea, and that's a plant. But I don't know about the bag and the little paper sticker.
Right. If it's paper, yes. The bags, I think it's probably worth checking with like the brand. Maybe they have on their website what it's made out of, especially if they have kind of a sustainability mission. But I would think mostly it's compostable. But if there's some tea bags, it might be kind of plastic based. I'd have to check that.
Okay. I do a lot of loose teas too, though, and it just goes in the trash now.
We'd love to keep it out for you.
Oh, very interested.
So I was one of those people that thought I was great because I don't have a lot of waste. I've been always kind of focused on this, but then I started putting all my lemon peels, all the stuff, and I have, just to give you an estimate, Sharon, of Walter and team, I probably fill one every 2 weeks. Is about 1 bucket, and I can imagine putting out that outside my door instead of having to drive somewhere like I do now, which I will continue to do. Anyhow, it's amazing what you think you don't waste, and you see it all. You cut a pineapple, you don't eat a lot of that pineapple, right? So it is amazing to me. I didn't think I'd have that much. I thought I was like, oh, I'm a non-food waster. But I don't eat everything. I don't eat the skin of everything, all the fruits. So I'd like to try to get this, a little more discussion going here and maybe it's in the 4th ward, but maybe Walter, it's just at 5th and Poplar first. What are your thoughts about next steps with this the team that's here?
This is Gabrielle. I am now thinking of being a customer, but just because, with COVID and eating home all the time too, I've noticed I am throwing out more. And so it's really interesting to hear what you guys have updated us today. But it makes me think, for people who aren't, I'm in a town home that it's just 8 units and we don't have it's not condo style, it's a walk-up style. So for people like me who may not be in that more apartment, condo, residential style, I'm wondering, just to get the name out there for your business, if we can, like us as a green team, talk to the Friends of Fourth Ward communications team and put a blurb in like the next upcoming newsletter, just as like a, hey, you know, our community is trying to be more green, think about blah blah blah, you know, joining this business. Just to give a little shout out. I know we do that for other businesses in our newsletter too, so
I think
And
the
we-
team here
And
can
we
help us.
have a condo-wide email system, which of course I sent the invitation to this meeting out on, but I don't see anybody from my condo on here. And you know, if we could get a copy of the slides and send that, I could send that out to everybody in my building and, you know, ask them to call me if they're, or text me back or email me back if they're interested. You know, I'd be happy to do that. I know we have some people that are very active. One person that used to collect rainwater, and then the homeowners put the kibosh, homeowners association put the kibosh on that pretty fast. We have Nazis running our homeowners association, but this certainly sounds like something that they would not be involved in whatsoever. So that's good.
I think Nazis run every homeowners association,
I think they do too.
mine included.
Ours is okay, don't you think, Walter? Come on.
Yeah, by and large. You know, we're looking to create business partnerships and business sponsorships. And the demographic profile of the residents of the Fourth Ward is really attractive. And you know, I have no statistics on the number of people who may do composting at home, but I think there's a real high awareness in the Fourth Ward of things that are natural. That might be an overextension, but I'm so glad you're recording this, as I mentioned earlier. Maybe we can find a home for it, and maybe we could create some discussions with the Groundtown compost people and see what we can do. You know, it's all about synergy. And if we can help spread their message and they can help support us in some way, we may be able to grow the customer base. Ultimately be a board decision, but I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, and I could do a 10-second video and Shirley can post that, or someone, to make it real. Just show cooking, cutting, put it in the bucket, how easy it is. Maybe you have something, Charlie, just like I'm literally saying, make it real.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. I mean, we just completed, we did 3 videos. We did a 30-second restaurant video showing, kind of highlighting the restaurant process for those guys. We did a 30-second apartment video and a 30-second like home residential video. I mean, it's super quick. It just, you know, it's a close-up shot of a lady uptown cutting stuff in her apartment. She sets her bucket outside her door, shows us going up the elevator to get it. You know, it's your typical, you know, why people watch Instagram and Facebook videos and stuff like that is, you know, they don't want to, you know, take the time to watch a 30-minute presentation back and, you know, things like that. But I mean, that's the big thing for us. I mean, you heard David say that the company's 6 years old and 700 plus clients. That's great, but that's not even an itch, you know, in the grand scheme of, I mean, there's 700 people in your apartment complex, you know, kind of thing. And it's just an energy, a capacity, a lack of awareness, you know, to, I mean, a lot of the people that we get that sign up is just a Google search because they care about it, or they've been in place like San Francisco that is mandatory. We have clients from San Francisco, they think it's the craziest thing because out there trash pickup is more expensive than compost pickup because the city's trying to, you know, of course, force you to compost. So it's just it's an education, you know, piece for us and getting that awareness out there. And that's why, you know, when you look at it, I'm trying to make it cost negligible for people. Or if I can come and instead of $30 a month coming to your door, make it $20 and I come to your door, or $15 and I come to your door, then it's like, I mean, $15 is an Arby's trip and we shouldn't be eating there anyway, you know, I mean, it, you know, kind of thing. It's just because of the volume, you know, if you go and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So I have a hard stop. I have to get something to my boss, so I'll just be transparent. She's pinging me, but I think we have some next steps, Charlie, that we can do in
Yep.
education here from the green team, as Walter said, and talk through that with our comms team. You may, you know, we'll certainly get visible the presentation and share that. And you may pick up some individual clients. But I'm looking more, but we're looking, you know, more broadly, of course,
Yeah.
too.
And I'll email you the video and you can pass that out if you want to.
Okay.
And apologize for David. He had to run. He's got a baby, kiddo and mommy, I think, you know, needed some help.
Yeah, that matters. We understand.
Yeah.
So, you guys, do any of you all have any more questions and you want to stay on with Charlie? Or are we good right now? I don't want to shut down because I've shut down.
I think I'm good. I don't know about everybody
I'm
else.
good. I'm good.
Okay. I
All right,
think we
guys.
have a good
Appreciate
overview.
your time.
Appreciate your time very much. Thank you, guys, and please thank David.
All right, for sure.
You're doing great work.
Thanks. Will do.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for talking to us. Bye.
Absolutely.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Gabrielle. Thanks for coming.